I will be demonstrating how to make this cylinder pot, slab pot. It's a slab pot, and you can tell that it's a slab because it has one solid piece that has been put together with a round base to make the pot. So I'll be going through all of the steps on how to make this today. So to start off, to make a slab pot, you are going to use these boards called slab rollers. The way that they work is you put them down on either side of the clay, and then you roll out your clay, and when your rolling pin hits the boards, then it stops and your clay is all in even thickness. So it's as thick as the side of this board right here. So I'm going to be cutting out these two pieces, this long rectangle and this circle, so I know that I need my clay to be as wide as this rectangle. So if I set my rectangle down in between my boards and maybe leave a little bit of space on either side, then I can see that that's as far as I need to go. I don't need my clay to roll out any wider than that. So to roll, I'm going to use a rolling pin, and I am going to stand up because this clay is a lot stiffer and harder to roll out than you would think. So standing up, and rather than holding out here on the pins, I hold, or the handles, I hold in here on the pins so I can really get my body over the top of it and press to roll it out. Now, clay does have moisture in it, so every once in a while it's a good idea to take it and flip it over because you'll see that the mat is starting to get wet here. So if you flip it over every once in a while, then it won't get stuck in there on that spot. So I'm going to keep rolling. Now I'm noticing that some areas the clay isn't rolling out as wide as I want it to roll, so I'll turn and I'll roll from side to side to get it to roll out a little bit more in those other directions. So I'm going to keep going. Now I'm going to flip it over one more time. And then I'm just rolling now until my rolling pin goes right over my boards, and that's what's happening now. So I can roll easily across the top. I know that I have the thickness that I want. So I'll get these boards out of the way and then set my pattern pieces down on top. And I can get the rectangle for sure, and I can also get the cylinder, but I'm going to show you what to do if you can't get both pieces out at the same time. So I'm just going to move this down a little bit, and then I need to use a tool, and every table will have a tool container. So you can either find a plastic tool that has a knife type edge or a wooden tool that has a knife type edge. And what you'll do is take the knife and press it down and pull across, so you're using that cardboard piece or this poster board piece as your pattern. So I just kind of push my knife down, and I want to be able to feel that my knife is scraping along the mat, and that way I know that I'm cutting all the way through. So I just go all the way along, and I'm cutting. I'm just trying to make one long movement. Okay, so there's my rectangle. Now my rectangle is what's going to become the sides of my pot. So my rectangle I'm going to be adding some textures to, but first I'm going to go ahead and get my base cut out too. So like I said, I'm going to show you what you can do if you can't get your circle base out of the same piece. So I'm just taking my clay and kind of working it back together, kind of smooshing it back together, getting it back into one piece, and then I'll set that down, put my boards down, and that's how far I want my boards apart so I can get my cylinder piece. And then I'll stand back up and roll it out. I'm going to flip it over one time and roll it again until my boards roll. My rolling pin rolls right over my boards. Alright, so now I'm going to set this one down. I'm going to cut this one. This is a little bit harder to cut because you're not cutting along a straight edge, you're cutting along a curve. But try to make it one movement all the way around rather than starting and stopping or taking your knife out and starting and stopping. Alright, so I got it all the way around. I'll just take this extra clay and set it aside, and I have my base. Okay, now before I put the two together, I want to make some textures on one side of my rectangle, because you can see on this pot there's lots of textures. Textures are where you press things into the clay and they leave marks on the clay. So I have different things that you can use for that. There's a whole container of tools that you can take from, so I could use any of these different ones and just start pressing. I don't want to press so hard that I'm cutting this when I'm making my textures, because if you do that, you're going to really make your clay weak in places, so you don't want to press so hard that you're cutting. Okay, I also have things like these markers that have interesting textures on the ends of the caps that you can use to press in. So I'm making a pretty organized texture right now, a design with my textures, instead of just doing stuff all over the place. Another thing I can do with this marker cap, it has a ridge all around it. I can take it and I can roll it across there. This marker has an interesting texture on the bottom of it. If I use that, I really like that one. I think it looks like a lemon slice or an orange slice. I also have forks and spoons that you can use, or I have the needle tools, which you can actually draw into your clay with. So I could go through, but remember, don't go so deep that you cut all the way through. Just try to go lightly along there. I could do something with this fork. It's kind of like the texture I have right above it that I did with the marker cap, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm finished with the textures, so I'll hold that up so you can see that better. It's really nice. So now what I'm going to do is take it and attach it to the base. If you remember from last year, the steps that you have to do to attach two pieces of clay is you have to score it, which means making little marks, and you have to add slip. So scoring it means that you're just making marks. So I'm just going around, all the way around the edge, because when I attach my rectangle to this, I am going to put it on top of the base. So I went around and scored it, and then I can decide which side I want to put, and of course I want my texture side to be out when I make my pot, not to the inside, because if you put it to the inside, no one will be able to see all those awesome textures you make. So I need to go along here and make textures all along. Okay, now before I can set this on top, I have to put slip, and slip is just a mixture of clay and water. So it's kind of like a peanut buttery consistency. So I can use a tool or I can use my finger, and I'm going to get some slip and I'm going to put it on top of the base over the scoring marks that I made. So you can see that. Okay, so now I'm going to pick this piece up where I made the scoring marks, and I'm going to set it on top of the base and wrap it around and make it fit on there good, so it goes right around the circle. Now I can see right now that my rectangle is too long. So when I go to put it together, it's too long. So what I'm going to have to do is trim some of that. So I'm going to take my knife tool and I'm just going to cut straight down and get rid of some of that extra that I don't need. Okay, and then I need to, of course, score and slip to put these back together too. So I'm going to go through here, score along there, score along there, and put some slip. You only need to put slip on one of the sides, and then press them together. Now, you're halfway there to getting this attachable, because you can still see that there are some cracks in here that we need to close up. Those are called the seams. Where the two pieces come together are the seams. So I need to go here and get this closed up. So to do that, I'm going to take a tool and I'm going to scrape. So I might kind of mess up my texture a little bit. If I do, I can go back in and fix it. I can take my tool and press it back in. So I did along there. I can go along here also. And then of course I can see that all the way through, so I'm going to work on trying to close that seam on the inside too.